Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wingcat Sports. Today is the NFC North breakdown for Week 15. We go over all the games inside the NFC North. It was a good week to be a Lions fan. All the other teams ended up losing. We'll start with the Saturday game.
And
Minnesota
may I
versus
say that I
the
predicted
Bengals.
that? That was
Yes.
my prediction last week. If we won, the other three teams.
But the first game, Minnesota versus Cincinnati, the Vikings versus the Bengals. They ended up losing in overtime 27-24, just like they did last year. Battles of the backup QBs. Nick Mullins actually did not have a bad day at all. If that wants to worry you as a Lions fan, it maybe should. But he was 26 for 33 for 303 yards, two TDs. He just had two interceptions that kind of hurt him, especially the one to the guy who was sitting on his butt right in front of him. Gave it right to him. But overall, really, it was not a bad day by the Vikings. Rushing wise, they ran for another 143 yards. They did actually pretty decent. They just didn't come out with the win.
Yeah, lucky for us. I mean, that was a good day for us. With all three, especially Minnesota, wanted them 3 games back going into the last 3 games. Um, Looks like the division is ours, but it's not there yet. But next week, let's hope we bring the effort we brought this week. We should beat Minnesota. I thought the game was pretty good, uh, in the sense that, except for the fact that I thought Cincinnati's defense is really bad. Um,
No,
so hopefully, we can bring other, besides the 2 interceptions. I just thought I just didn't think much of Cincy's team
yeah,
that day.
Minnesota's defense played well. They sacked the QB 5 times.
Yep.
They had, but they were thrown on for 298 yards and rushed down for 80 yards. But again, overall, Minnesota did play pretty well. I think it makes it a little bit more difficult on them now to try and fight for the division. And like I was saying, your clinching game is either this week or next week against the Vikings as a Lions fan. So you are at that point where this is where the division's going to come down to the last 3 games.
You got 3 clinching games, and you got to win one of these.
All right, moving on to the next game. We will move on to the Green Bay Packers versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Green Bay ended up losing 34-20 at home. For the most part, Jordan Love, again, another day where he looked all right, just the team couldn't do anything. He threw for 261 yards and 2 TDs, but they only rushed for 60 yards.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think much of Green Bay this year. I think we'll see how the Jordan Love develops. He's certainly better than he was earlier in the year, which is to be expected. Whether or not they want to go forward with him and they think he's going to develop into the quarterback that can elevate them to another level, that's great. But I thought Tampa Bay would beat them. I just didn't think much of the Green Bay team
No.
as a whole.
Now, for you to clinch the playoff spot earlier, Tampa actually would have had to lose today along with LA. We would have clinched. So if Green Bay actually won today, we would be in a good situation to clinch on Sunday, but we're going to be waiting till Monday night to fully see if we have a playoff spot on lock or not. But Green Bay's defense didn't do bad. 5 sacks. They just let up a lot of passing yards. Baker Mayfield destroyed them. He threw for 353 yards.
Whoa.
That's with the sacks taken out. In actual total, it's 381 yards he threw for, because they take the yardage from the sacks away from your passing
Mayfield's
yards.
A tough quarterback.
He threw 4 TDs, and then rushing wise, they were run on for 99 yards. So the Green Bay Packers defense did good getting to the quarterback, but he also sucked at every other aspect of the game.
Which is strange, because I think Green Bay, their strength is their defense, but
yeah,
Baker Mayfield, everybody's the fun thing about this time of year is everybody is in a must win. These teams are in a must win. That was a must win for Green Bay. They're not gonna. I don't think they're gonna make the playoffs.
At this point, it is going to be difficult for them, and we'll do a little playoff analysis at the end of this video too, to just kind of give an idea. Since 3 of the teams now are playoff eligible, I think Chicago got eliminated today, or at least the hopes of making it have diminished enough that you aren't expected to be in the playoffs. But moving on to Chicago, facing Cleveland, ending up losing 20-17. It actually was a really, really good game defensively by the Bears. Offensively, not so much. Justin Fields threw for 148 yards, 1 TD, 2 interceptions. They were only ran for 88 yards. But your Chicago's defense showed up. They got 3 interceptions. They were mostly for the scoring. They put Chicago in a good position to score.
Chicago's been playing well for the last few weeks, and Cleveland's a good team. I mean, I know they got Joe Flacco, so they wish they had something else, but they've been playing well too. 9-5 team. They're right there with us.
Maybe you get a Cleveland Detroit Super Bowl.
That would be awesome. I would love that. That would be great. But I think, like I said, Chicago, it's going to be interesting. I mean, we're not done with this year yet, so we won't get into talking next year. But I think Chicago's headed in the right direction.
Yeah, they should be a much better team next year. They're going to probably get that first pick in the draft with having Carolina's pick, at least the top 2.
I would not take that guy from USC.
Falls apart.
Caleb, I would not take him.
I don't know if they're going to give up on Justin Fields. I don't think they should, but we'll see seeing what happens. But Joe Flacco did torch their defense passing wise besides the interceptions, because he also threw for 348 yards and 2 TDs. But again, they have a great run defense. They have a good foundation to build off of, and Chicago's future is at least bright. And then last on the list, we already do our post game, but we'll talk about it again. We'll end on the Lions like we always do. They go into Saturday night winning, and you're going to be in a great position to win the division the following week, and that is what they did. They won 42-17, kind of calmed down all the doubt and the people ready to push the panic button, right? And they put themselves in a good position going into next week.
Well, all we said was, go out there and do it, and then you'll stop all this angst and the anger. I mean, it's not that you didn't deserve it over the last few weeks. You've deserved the criticism. You haven't played well, and you went out yesterday, played one of the best games you played all year. You started out a little shaky. I could tell. We were saying that. But the thing that you notice, like I said, if Goff gets time, if that offensive line, which was intact yesterday, played great. We rushed for almost 200 yards, and Goff had a really good game. It was near perfect. The defense, I just think that when we were talking about it while we were watching it, be aggressive. You're going to have to take chances, and you're going to get burned sometimes. Sometimes you're going to die with that.
You got to be smart with when you're aggressive. But being aggressive is not bad, especially against QBs like Russell Wilson, like Dak Prescott, who you're going to be playing.
And Mullins,
and make them uncomfortable, right? Because they're not going to be playing well if they're constantly uncomfortable. And with Irvin coming in and he's helping on the other side of the line, things are looking a lot better on that defensive line than they were at the beginning of the year. And by the last game of the year, you might have Houston and McNeil back. We'll see if they're going to come off IR before the end of the year or just before the playoffs happen. But you're going to have your defense potentially fully healthy going into the playoffs, which is what we were excited to see at the beginning of the year before they got injured.
Health is such an important part to any team. You've seen what it did to the 49ers earlier in the year. It turned them into an average team. You got to fight through it, no doubt, but it's such a big factor, especially if you don't have the depth. And with us, like I said, you watch that offensive line, and I was curious because they haven't been together for most of the year. What it would look like, who was hurt. They're playing hurt. I'm sure that is. Decker even said he played a horrible game last week, and he really made up for it this week. I mean, for the most part, Goff had more than enough time to throw almost every time he went back. And that's what he needs to succeed. That's why we know, everybody knows, every team knows who goes up against us is going to try to put pressure on him, knowing he isn't mobile. But yesterday it didn't work. And I was very surprised, pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
How well we played.
So looking at the division, and then we'll look into the playoffs. Obviously, like I was saying, it is a clinching game next week for Detroit. They have a 3-game lead with 3 games left, 10-4 being the record at the moment. Minnesota in second at a 7-7 record. Green Bay now sitting at a 6-8 record, and Chicago sitting at a 5-9 record at the bottom of the division. Green Bay could finish 4th in the division. Do not be surprised if that happens.
Right.
They
I
could.
just hope, like I said, Detroit, for the rest of the year out, I hope they've learned their lesson. Don't relax. Don't breathe a sigh of relief yet. You won yesterday. Yes, you're 3 games up with 3 games to go. But you still got to go out there and play. You still got to go beat these guys and bring the intensity you brought yesterday. I think that was part of the reason we went through this little lull. Is just we were 8-2, clear sailing. There wasn't much adversity, and suddenly, the division was at risk.
Yes,
and I think they should go in with the attitude that it's still at risk.
Yes. But they're in a good position. So looking at the games next week for each divisional opponent, Chicago is coming back home to face the Arizona Cardinals. They should win that game.
They should win.
Put themselves at 6-9. And again, they should feel good about where they're at in the year. Yes, you have a losing record now, but from how you started, you have ended the year. I think you're going to be ending the year on a high note.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a lot of momentum going into the next year. With their last 3 games, it's Cardinals, Falcons, Packers, and they could win 3. They could finish the year 8-9.
Sure, I think
perfectly good record. I would be okay with that. Green Bay, they're going to be going to Carolina next week. It should be a win for them in Carolina. If they lose to Carolina,
they shouldn't. They should win next week.
There would be a problem. But then they play the Vikings and the Bears. So they might only win one more.
Might be, depending upon if we beat the Minnesota Vikings next week, all those games are for naught anyways. I mean
Minnesota is still fighting for a playoff spot.
Right. They're going to be fighting for a playoff spot.
We are facing Minnesota on Christmas Eve. Are you going to get your Christmas present of the Lions winning a division Christmas Eve?
We will be watching it on much smaller TV.
No, we will not. It's at 1:00. We will be here.
It's at 1 in the afternoon.
It's at 1:00.
Crap! By the time we go to our Christmas Eve dinner, we will know.
We will know if the Lions.
Maybe
have
we'll
won
get over to
division.
Grandma's early and watch it over there. Who knows?
On a tiny TV, we'll see.
We'll see.
But they will be playing 1:00 on Christmas Eve. This is your division clinching game. It is going to be a big game. After that, like I was saying in the post-game video, you might be playing on primetime 2 straight weeks, depending on the situation. Because you're going to be in Dallas on Saturday Night Football on the 30th. And then I will be at that last game against the Vikings. That might get moved to Saturday night and might get moved to Sunday night.
Depending upon its importance.
Depending on its importance with everything else, we will see where that ends. That might just get moved just to see if they might have a higher seeding. It might.
True. Or it might be to eliminate Minnesota from the playoffs.
It might. But going back into a playoff situation to end out the video. So the playoff outlook currently, since our division is fighting a lot for playoff spots, there's 2 positions clinched. San Fran and Dallas have clinched the playoffs. They will be in the playoffs this year. We are still sitting at number 3. So it's San Fran 1, Dallas 2, Detroit sitting at number 3, likely where you're going to be sitting. Unless Dallas loses today, I could see them hopping them. I don't know if that would give us a tiebreaker. I guess we'll see what ends up happening. Maybe not, because Dallas is very, very good in the division. They're 4-1, so you probably are not going to hop them.
That the first tiebreaker?
I think that is the first. I think the first tiebreaker. I think the first tiebreaker is head-to-head, but we haven't played head-to-head.
So if they lose today, that Dallas game might mean something.
It very much might mean something.
That's already a nighttime game.
Tampa is sitting in 4 now, as they were before, at 7-7. Philly have not played yet since we are recording this on Sunday. They are still sitting at 10-3 in that 5th spot. And then Minnesota is 7-7 in the 6th spot. So we're still playing Minnesota in the wild card round. And then New Orleans is also sitting at 7-7 in the 7th spot, currently at the making of this video. I believe if LA wins, they're going to hop ahead of them, and LA will now be in the playoffs if they beat the Commanders today.
Woo! Want to play Matty?
Well,
That's
play
what we all
Matt.
want.
But also the teams looking out are also Seattle and Atlanta lost today, so I think Atlanta's hopes might dwindle a little bit. The positioning is seeming clearer now than it was. There's fewer teams that are going to fight for it. Really, I don't see a 8-9 team being the wild card team. Is it possible? Yes, but it's probably going to end up being a 9-8 team. So anybody sitting at that 6-8, I think, is going to be out of the playoffs. But with all that being said, hopefully the Lions can win on Christmas Eve. We'll get our pregame out on Saturday like we usually do. Break down what might happen during the game. If you like what you see, like, comment, subscribe, do all that usual stuff. Let me know what you think in the comments. Share the video around. And until next time, hope to see everybody soon.